was listening to Clubhouse a couple of months ago, and the speakers brought someone on stage who was questioning where they wanted to go next, and they kept, and what were they passionate about, and all of the things that they normally say, like what are you passionate about, what's in, what do you find yourself gravitating you to, and the person kept saying, I don't know, and they're trying to do all of these things to pull it out of them. And I'm sitting there screaming at the top of my lungs in my head, like, you do know what you want to do. It's the very thing that you're talking yourself out of. And it's the thing that you're saying, no, that's not possible, and that you tend to dismiss, that we don't pay attention to. I find that sometimes people get so caught up in where they are in their current circumstances that they can't see past any possibilities for tomorrow. So I think that people sometimes live in a constant state of survival mode. My next guest is an author, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. His businesses have generated over $100 million in revenue. Tony Kitchens believes that current circumstances don't determine your destiny. And he's here to share why you should become a relentless pursuer of your dreams. Tony, welcome to the Living the Dream Summit. How are you today?
Thank you, Sherelle, for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's good to be here with your audience. Thank you for allowing me to speak with them as well.
I'm so excited that you're here. I've had a chance to read through some of the things that you've put out for us for your bio. I'm excited to hear about your book, The Gift of Pain. I really know you have a lot to offer in today's conversation. One of the main things that I really want to get across to everyone is that they have something that's inside of them that's nagging at them, that they really should pursue, not just for themselves, because most of the time it's never for ourselves anyway. It's always for someone else. We're waiting for people to step into their destiny. So that's kind of where I want to start. Can you tell us your story about how you followed your nagging, and how are you living your own dreams?
Absolutely. Mine wasn't a nagging at the beginning because I was so young.
Mm.
I was probably 8, 9 years old. And my uncle, Benji, used to come visit us from Puerto Rico. And he's a business person. I had no clue what he did. I didn't really understand what a business person was. I saw shop owners in the neighborhood, but I never understood what a business owner was. And remember, this is pre-internet. And I just remember him coming to town. He would go to conferences and he would stay with us. And I would listen to him and my mom and my father at the kitchen table. There was no TV, no radio, and they would just talk. And he told them the stories of how he had to travel to go to Spain to go to have a meeting. And he was in Chicago, he would be in Colorado. And I just thought, man, that seems like such a cool thing. And it was something I had no clue about. And I just started to ask him questions, not business questions, because again, I didn't know business. I was a small kid. I didn't understand what entrepreneurship was, but I just started asking more questions about what he did and the places he went. And I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I think what it was Sherelle, was it gave me a sense of freedom that you can go where you wanted to go and meet new people and travel. That freedom was really what started this spark inside of me.
I love that. Well, first of all, what I love about the beginning of your stories is exactly what we're doing here. I've often described the Living the Dream Summit as the same way as kids. We used to have career days, and we were exposed to different things that kind of put ideas in our head as to what was possible. And that's exactly what you just described. What was possible by watching your Uncle Benji. Did I say that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Your Uncle Benji, and hearing his stories, and it sparked in something inside of you. So, can you share a little bit about what you do now, and how did you get there?
Absolutely. As I mentioned before the audience was here, was I'm 51 years old, been in business for 31 years. So if the listeners can imagine the majority of your life doing something for that long, it's hard to remember what you did before that. just like it's hard to remember what life was like before I had a child.
Yeah.
I must have had a lot of free time. But over the years, I'm on my fifth company now, and I have two companies today. And right now, in 2019, I closed my primary business, and it wasn't a favorable situation. And this is the thing about business and life that we have to understand, which is things run their course, and sometimes you hold on to them a little bit longer than your soul wants you to, and the universe will find a way to make you change course. And that's exactly what happened to me. As I look back, as terrible as of a loss as it was for me, I mean, it was traumatic. But in that moment, I knew that it was a blessing. I just didn't know how I was going to be able to smile and laugh again and talk and just to kind of get back to what I felt was a sense of normalcy. With that being said, what I'm doing now is I'm just taking all of the wisdom that I've learned over all of the years, running different types of businesses and heading organizations, and taking that and sharing it with people, which I've always done, but I'm just doing it in a more organized fashion now. So I do public speaking, which I love to death. I love interviews like this. They're unscripted. You don't write a speech, so you're engaging with the interviewer and they're bringing out the best in you, and you're providing answers that make the audience really learn and take in what it is that you're talking about. So public speaking, and then I do some one-on-one strategy sessions as well. And then the other thing is I've done developed a business course, and I wrote a book. And all of those things, every single one of them points back toward how can I provide value to the outside world and sharing what I've learned and continue to learn. Because Sherelle, the important thing about life is you never stop learning. You
Exactly.
never stop learning.
So there's so many tidbits that I heard in there, and I'm sorry to hear about your business, but I do understand exactly what you mean. Life is about evolution, and what we need to understand is that everything has its season, and sometimes you're right, we fight against that. We don't want to change, but in order for us to grow, change has to occur, and sometimes it happens willingly and sometimes it does it happens not so willingly. And but I'm happy to hear where you have landed with this, because I know that people will really benefit from what you have to share. And I'm really interested in hearing more about your book, and what it is that you have to offer people. But I would love to start off with, what does your day to day look like, right? If I'm talking to somebody who's trying to figure out how to navigate life, how to navigate their thoughts, and bringing into manifestation, for lack of a better word, because sometimes that word has become very woo woo. But but how do they bring that forth? And so, can you share a little bit about your story and how you moved past that transition of change for yourself?
Absolutely. I think this is going to be really valuable to the audience. In that moment, I mean, just imagine that's my primary source of income. I had countless suppliers and vendors and business partners and an entire ecosystem of people who supported not just my business world, but my personal life as well. Employees at home, the different things that I own, people to manage those, which to a lot of people, you almost don't realize it until you have to kind of have conversations with him like, good grief, you as well. Right. So there was just there are a lot of components that were involved in my life. And I think that's one important lesson with entrepreneurs is this idea that you start out today and you're going to make $1 million tomorrow, and it's just you and you're sitting in the same room you're in today. Every step of the way you incur cost, every step of the way that you grow, your infrastructure has to grow with you, which means your responsibilities. And with added responsibilities come added expenses. And when you get to a certain point where I was at, where I mean, we were doing well as a company. We were doing extremely well. And the level of stress that I'll have to tell you that most people probably wouldn't imagine, and would not want to be under. You don't really realize you're under it until you're not under it anymore. That weight. And it just got to a point where when I had to close the company down, there wasn't a relief. There was this, oh my God, I've been doing this the majority of my life. This is I this is what I know. And I describe it to people as sitting in a room with four walls and a ceiling, no windows, no doors, and it's just dark. And no matter what you say or do, you just can't find a way out. And you sit in that. And it's not that you're sitting there without trying to move forward, trying to progress. You're sitting in that space because there are so many outside things that are coming at you that it's almost paralyzing. And that's what it feels like when you have to shut a company down. And what I did at that point was, to get through that, I went from praying for new orders, which is what our issue was. We had a shortage of orders that came in because of a political issue. I'll put it like that. Elected officials change office and they shut contracts down. So that's essentially what happened. But I stopped praying for new orders. And one day I just started praying and said, thank you for this experience. I do not know what the other side looks like. But one thing I know from life is that at certain point, I'm going to look back, and this is probably going to be one of the best experiences and best things for me. And this is 2022, and I still have nightmares some nights, but not in a bad way. I just still have these flashbacks, this PTSD of having a company kind of slam into a brick wall and everything that went along with that. But I can look back, and I'll tell you, Sherelle, that this is the honest truth, that crash for me was literally one of the best experiences, best things that has ever happened to me professionally. Because what it did was, which is what your podcast is about, it took me back to a place where I had to sit in silence and I had to listen for the first time in 20 something years, have the ability, I should say, not just the desire, but the ability to sit by myself and just look out. And what I heard over a period of time was, you need to share this experience and you need to share what you've learned, because at this point in your life, that's really where your value is. And you'll still make money from doing it, which as entrepreneurs, we always have to find a way to make money.
Right. Got to keep that pipeline full.
Otherwise, you're not an entrepreneur,
Right.
right? You're just a
Exactly.
dreamer.
Right.
But the second thing was that it's going to help a lot of people. And that's where I am now, that's what I've been doing. I've spoken my whole life in corporate America. I'm not corporate America, but in the business world. And I just do it now in a different way, more intentional. And just, I'm loving the whole idea of talking to people. So in a day for me, going to your question, in a day for me, it's waking up. It's first thing I do is I'm thankful for being alive, right? And the second thing is, I do not turn on news. I don't check email. I don't turn on anything. I just sit in silence for a little bit, because again, I have to get back in tune with what I know my purpose is for the day, what my mission is, what that nagging is. And then I'll go. And then here's what my day is. It's actually really fun. I have a 19-year-old in college, and he cracks up when I tell him about this. His name is TJ, Tony Jr. I say, TJ, I said, it still feels weird. He's like, what, Dad? What's weird? I'm like, I create content during the day. And he's like, well, that's life. I'm like, but dude, no, that's not how I was raised.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm creating content, whether it's writing a speech, whether it's a YouTube video, whether it's the social media stuff, a lot of time on LinkedIn. But what I'm doing is I'm using those platforms to connect with people like you, Sherelle, and your audience members, because those are the ones who need the information. And I create a lot of content, and it is absolutely strange coming from being in a 9 to 5 at a desk, and then from 6 to 8:55 in the morning all over again. it's strange coming from that to doing something that seems like it's fun, but it's so much. I'm having a blast here with you right now, just a blast,
I
and
totally
that's
get
what my
it.
day is like.
I love it. I totally get it. I'm the same. This is my happy place, providing content and information that provokes thought and inspires action. I totally get where you're coming from. And I thank God that we have the opportunity to do it. I really, really do. So, when someone is thinking about something something that they've had in their head for a long time and they're trying to figure it out and they want to begin to create a life that they too can love, where should they start?
The first thing is I would go back to this principle: is to get quiet. You have two access points. Every individual has at least two access points. The third is field, but the primary ones that we are influenced by are our eyes and our ears. And one of the first things I would do is you have to shut down those access points immediately. I don't watch news. I don't look at negative reports of anything. If there's something that's an emergency in the world, somebody will call me and tell me that, hey, stay inside because COVID has okay, thank you very much. Right. But you don't have to be engaged all the time. So I shut down my eyes and ears. And then, Sherelle, here's this amazing thing that happens. You don't hear voices of people saying that you can't do it. Your ideas don't sound crazy anymore. You don't look at things on social media that make you believe, well, wow, this person is 10 years younger than me and they are 1,000 miles ahead. What's wrong with me? So I shut down all of those access points. And what I do is, again, I just listen. And it's not really, and I think you stated it perfectly. It's really not necessarily a calling or it's not a purpose. It's just when you just think about what makes you happy, whatever makes you happy, I can guarantee you there's probably a path for you to go down that's going to bring you enough financial stability to keep doing it. And it's going to bring you joy to wake up in the morning where you literally have to pinch yourself and say, is this how I show up in the world? This is crazy. This is just too much fun to be considered work. And that's the key, I think.
So I know that you and I get it because you sound like what you're describing is something that I wake up with every day. I get these 3 o'clock in the morning thoughts of, what's the difference between short term and long term decisions, right? That's why do we come up with that stuff but to put it out in the world, right? But there are people, and I've learned this in working with individuals and past clients that may not see it the way that we see it. I can get quiet. And I think that's easy for somebody to kind of like, okay, begin to soak in and process. Okay, I could at least try to get quiet. But then what? What do you do with that thought that's in your head that says, you know, do a Living the Dream Summit?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
That's the first step, though. No, you're
right.
correct. So the follow up to that, and the reason why I stopped at that is because in itself, that's going to take a little bit of discipline, and that's going to take a little bit of time, not years, but it's going to take. You have to be dedicated to your goal to say, I'm going to kind of shut that stuff down for a little bit. But here's where the fun stuff and the challenging part comes in. So the next thing is writing down what it is that you just truly love. Write it down. And Sherelle, let me pull it out of my pocket. And I didn't bring it just for this interview. And I'm going to flash it so that you can't read it,
Okay.
right? But
Okay.
this is a laminated card.
Okay.
And when I say writing things down, from when I was about 18 years old, I literally had a piece of paper in my pocket and I had a goal on it. This one has 4 goals and a picture on one side. And since I was 18 years old, I swam in the ocean with this card. I've been to Africa with this card. I've been around the world. And I've always had a card on my right side pocket. Even at night, I sleep with the card in my pocket. And what it is it's just a list of goals that I have. So the second thing is to write that goal down. Or it may not be a goal. Write that thing down that you absolutely just, you get so excited. I hate to say it this way, but you almost have to go urinate. You have to keep going to the washroom because you're just
Right.
so, that's how excited you are about this thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And once you know what that thing is, here's the thing I would say, don't try to figure out how to make it happen yet, because that's the process. But right now, you have to just get comfortable with it's possible. Once you see this thing and you know that it's humanly possible, and here's the way you know that, because there is nothing on earth, absolutely nothing on earth, that the smartest people on this planet have, you're not going to come up with anything that has not been thought about before. So don't worry about that. There are some people that do things better, but don't worry about that, oh, nobody's ever done this. Or conversely, don't worry about a lot of people do this.
Right.
All right. So get that, write it down. And here's the next thing. And I will tell you that this is a way to scale your life or your business beyond what you can ever imagine, is go find someone who has done it or is doing it today and make them your mentor. Don't accept no for an answer. And then your audience, I can hear people in the audience now, well, how do you do that? I don't know Elon Musk. You don't have to know him personally.
Right.
There are 1,000 books written about Elon. When I was growing up, it was Bill Gates, the chairman of Microsoft. I read everything I could about Bill Gates, not just about the company, but how he was as an individual. Like him or not, that's not the point. The point is, he was at a place where I wanted to be. I didn't want to be
Exactly.
him as a person. I wanted to overcome the things that he overcame. And you can find mentors today 1,000 times easier than you could when you and I were coming up, right? So books, videos, some of them you can reach out to. Some people are very accessible now, but I would find a mentor. And then what I would do is I would look and see how they got past certain challenges. Not the successes, but the challenges. Because I'll tell you, success is very easy. Overcoming the challenges is where you have difficulties, and that's where you grow. So I would find a mentor. The next thing is, once you find that mentor from afar or from near, the next thing I would do is every single day, I would take 3 steps to get toward that goal. For example, let's just say that you wanted to start a podcast, and I have no idea about podcasts, but let me take a shot, Sherelle. I would find out who I like, who does it well. And then I
Right.
would see the platform that they're on. Oh, they're using this platform. Okay. They have this mic. Okay. They post once a week. Okay. What you're doing is you're looking at a blueprint of a successful person. And now you write those things down. So now you have actionable steps. I need to go find me a platform. I need a microphone. I need to produce content every single week. And oh, they're not just talking on their platforms themselves, they have guests. Oh, I need to find guests. And they're talking about certain subjects. Now, okay, I can narrow this down. Now you have 5 or 6 steps to becoming a great podcast host. And the blueprint is there. And again, when you have that mentor and you start looking at these steps, pretty soon you're going to have success. And that's what it really takes.
I agree with you. I think everything is baby steps, but I will also I want to add to what you're saying because I do believe in writing it down. I do believe I actually put things on a vision board, and even with the podcast that we do have called the Envisioner's Journey, before I even started the podcast, following exactly what you just the framework that you just spoke to, I went and found a mentor. Actually, a girlfriend of mine said, "Hey, somebody her name is Nikayla Matthews, and she does Side Hustle Pro, and she actually that's literally what she does. Is she taught a class on how to build a podcast, to create a podcast, and offered her mentorship, and we can still sign into her weekly calls for any questions. And so having that mentor, having that guiding light is important, right? Because you even if you try to do it a little bit differently, that's okay. At least you have a way, a skeleton on how to start. So I love that. And then you're right. From there, for me, I took a different approach. I tend to believe that DIY is overrated. I do believe in a term that I have coined called "sheetot." Someone else has to own this. Um, and so, because of my work, my client work, I work with a team to help support me in this and building a vision. But it does start with writing it down. And there's something so powerful about writing it down because it immediately becomes real. It immediately becomes something. And I also love the idea of taking it as one more step back forward, just sitting with and being still and listening to yourself and processing and writing it down. You actually begin to accept that it is possible, especially when you take the time to give it its reality. Because the reality of it is everything that we experience today, whether it's podcasting, the computer that we're on, the microphone I'm speaking through, the pencil that we write with, or the pen that we write with, or the stylus that we write with, started in the mind of someone who thought it was possible. And that's how powerful your thoughts and your dreams and the things that you have inside of you really are. So I love the steps that you're talking about taking. I think it's really critical and key, and I hope people are listening and writing it down and being inspired by it. Um, I would, and I hate this word mistake because I don't believe in mistakes. I believe in learning curves. Like even the what you described with your own circumstance remind me of the book written by John Maxwell, Failing Forward. Right? How do you move past those what seems like negative circumstances and learn for it and learn from it and move forward? So I don't really want to say the word stake, but when people start to approach what they're looking to pursue, what are some of the things that begin to hold people back in pursuing in pursuing their nagging? What are some of the, for lack of a better term, mistakes that you see people make?
Excellent. I love John Maxwell, by the way. He's wonderful.
Yes.
What I've seen is people wind up talking themselves out of good ideas, and they allow other people to talk them out of good ideas. And one of the things that with entrepreneurship is you have to really keep your dreams close to your vest. You can't tell too many people, because here's a simple way to put it. If I'm your audience member, what's in my heart and what I like and what's important to me, no one else on earth knows that. I can probably tell somebody in your audience what I think they should do to start a business or what idea is trending today, but that's me looking at some stats. It's not telling me what's in their heart. So, how can I possibly be very encouraging to somebody if I can't see the vision they have for themselves or what's important to them? With that being said, was you have to limit the people you talk to because they can't see what's inside of you. They don't know that nagging feeling that you're talking about. They
And
just
it's
know you
not
have an
for them
idea.
to know. Exactly. It's
No.
not for them to know. It's yours. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm getting a little hyped.
I know, no, this is good though. And what happens, Cheryl, you're right. And what happens is they start to tell you the reasons why it wouldn't work for them. And then you start to believe it won't work for you because it wouldn't work for them, but they never had the vision. They never had that goal. They didn't have that nagging feeling. So one of the things is stay away from other people. Now, here's the other part is you have to get around other people who dream as big as you do or bigger. Because what you'll find is once you start telling them, they're going to say, well, why are you just limiting yourself to one state? There's 50 states. There's 337 million people in America, 8 billion in the world. Why are you limiting yourself to this? And then you're going to say, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. And then your dreams are going to become bigger than you even thought. And that's a little scary because then you get to this point, but what do I do next? And I think that's the crux of your question is what do I do to move forward? And it's really about again, eliminating negative people, and that may mean family and friends. You got to, I isolated myself when I was first starting out, and you have to do that. But the next thing is which is just extremely important is you have to not worry necessarily about the process. Again, I keep coming back to that Because when you have a big dream and you're in this circumstance, you don't have money, you have no experience with business, nobody in your family does, and for you to sit there and think, I can own a business, there's a far leap for any of us. But what we have to do is we have to understand that, again, if it's possible, somebody can help me figure this out. And all your responsibility is, the only thing you're responsible for is determining what it is that you want to do, getting around the people who are doing it, and you will learn how to do it. And then that leap just becomes steps. And those steps that used to be 3 or 4 feet long, maybe they're 6 inches now. And you're able to walk it a little bit better. And I can't tell everybody how to start every type of business or how to succeed in every circumstance, but I'll tell you the steps are basically the same. Is if you want to make progress, you have to move forward. The thing about moving forward is you just have to know which direction to walk in. That's the key. That's the key right there. And if you don't know which direction to walk in, again, look at where the successful people are and walk in that direction. If you make a mistake and you get off track and you make a mistake and you make a bad decision, here's the thing. That is your education. That's
Yes.
your master's degree. That's your master's of business association. That's your MBA. That's your PhD. Those are the things that Sherelle and I are sitting on this call right now telling you about. And we can proudly tell you because we've experienced them. We didn't just hear about them, we experienced them. And the thing is, in life, once you experience something like that, you're not going to repeat those exact same mistakes because they're learning tools for you. They are there for you to remind you to stay focused. They are there to remind you to keep on track. They are also there to remind you to follow the basics. When you start getting too far off track, a mistake is probably when you didn't trust your instinct, your gut. Because that's when I've made mistakes in my life. When I kind of listen to other people, we should do it this way, listen to salespeople. And I just kind of wasn't feeling it. But I said, okay, well, the majority of you all think we should. Let's take a shot at it. And when it fails, you have to take responsibility. I was in that same conference room with my team and say, you know what? It was a bad idea. I allowed it because it's my company. Now we're going to make a shift. That's it.
And not beat yourself up about it. And then
No.
accept that that's part of the process. That's part of the journey. As you stated earlier, it's part of our learning curve, right? Altogether. I know we're so getting short on time, and I wanted to at least speak to your book, The Gift of Pain. And I wanted to also, I have one more question after that, and that is, what do you want everyone's biggest takeaway to be? So let's just talk briefly about the book of The Gift of Pain, and I want to include all of the information so people can pick it up and read it, and then we'll go into our last question. So please share.
Absolutely. The Gift of Pain was written. I was walking from my house toward the backyard. I had an office outside. This is when we lived in Puerto Rico. My office was detached from my home, but it was in our backyard. And I was walking down the stairs, going out toward my office, and my wife was standing there. And this was just a very difficult time. And I just I said, this pain, I said, it's just a gift. I said, it gets you up early. It keeps you awake at night. It prevents you from complacency. This pain will make you do the things you have to do without even thinking about them because you have nowhere to go but up. As opposed to looking at pain as a negative thing, my challenge to people is to look at pain and change the perspective. And on the cover of my book, the word pain is at the bottom. If you turn the cover upside down, you'll see that the word is actually transformed into gift.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. My book is about taking that pain and using it to propel your life and your business and everything else to where you want to go. And it really just started out, Sherelle, with me just sitting out back one day writing when everything was shut down during COVID. And I knew COVID would be over one day. And I said to myself, what's going to be my product? What's going to be the thing that I'm proud of when everybody came out of COVID,
Yes.
right? And I just started writing. and I had no idea about who would read it, if anybody would read it. I didn't care. It wasn't a target audience.
Right.
I was about 100,000 words into it before I even started putting chapters together. And it's just a brain dump of challenges that I went through in life, not all bad, and how I overcame them. Because nobody really wants to hear about the successes and
Right.
cars and all of that
Right.
stuff, even
Right.
though that comes with the territory,
It does.
but that's not where you learn.
And not only that,
That's how I came up with that
that's
book.
already evidenced, right? People see that already. So what's really inside of you and what people do need to know are the challenges. And so I have not had the opportunity to read the book because we've met so quickly, but it is
Yeah,
on
of
my
course.
holiday list. And what I would love to do is have you come back to our podcast, The Envisioner's Journey, to talk about it. So we
Of
will
course.
definitely set that up. But so what do you want everyone's biggest takeaway to be?
It's it's I think it's pretty straightforward, which is this. And I'll be selfish here in terms of talking about myself for a second, but for the
Please do.
benefit of the audience.
Yes.
Through entrepreneurship, which I believe is one of the greatest ways on the planet for anybody around the world to change their circumstances quickly. Through entrepreneurship, I've had a very, very good life. And what I mean by good is I've been able to travel and meet people all around the world, which is one of my greatest joys. I've been able to do philanthropic work, and the difference between charity and philanthropy. Charity is when you just write a check to somebody you don't know. Philanthropy is when you put your money and time and effort into a cause that lasts many, many, many years because you're looking for a desired outcome. And I've been doing philanthropic work with my family for a number of years, and it's because of entrepreneurship. I've been able to learn these lessons that I'm able to pass on with you all because I've been down a bumpy road. And all of that, again, is because I took a chance at the ripe age of 21 years old, 20 years old, when there was no internet. And the only people you knew is you had to pick up a phone and call or look through a yellow page phone book, which is
Yes.
foreign to people today.
Yeah.
But if I can do it, I'm literally just an average boy from the south side of Chicago. Average. My dad only finished third grade in grammar school. My mom had an associate's degree and she worked in a hospital. And they didn't have the tools to make me this great entrepreneur. And with those mediocre and modest circumstances, which I loved, by the way, I enjoyed my childhood. I loved it. But from that, I was able to create companies that helped me, my family, and the world. And people say this all the time. If I can do it, you can do it. And here's the thing
Right.
I know for sure. If I, Tony, can do it, I promise you, with the tools you have available to yourself today, not only can you do it, you can do it much faster. You can do it in a much grander way. You can benefit way more people. You could get way more enjoyment out of the people you help from the service that you provide. And I promise you that. I promise you, with everything, you can literally go on one platform and get 1 million people to listen to what you have to say. That was unheard of when I started. Unheard of. So if I
I,
were to look back to this time when I was first starting, I would have dreamed bigger. But what I realized, I don't beat myself up. I dreamed as big as I saw at that point in my life.
yes.
That was it. And that's what I would offer to people today. And there is no quitting. There is no quitting because I don't even know how to quit today. Sure. I mean, I wanted to quit many times. I just don't I physically don't understand how to stop moving my feet forward every day. And that's a lesson for your audience. Is if you keep moving your feet forward every day, the universe will find a way to bring people into your life that's going to push you along just for a little bit, just for a little while
Yes.
until you can continue to walk on your own. And I promise you that will happen.
I know that it'll happen. I think that's the third part to what you were saying is after you find your mentor and you just start and moving forward, things begin to come together. The people that you're supposed to meet, you will meet. You'll be more open to it. And I love exactly, I don't even want to say anything else because I think you wrapped it up perfectly. Tony, can you just share how people can reach you and follow you? And we will also be sure to include that in all of the information at the bottom of the page on the summit. So please just share how people can follow you.
Absolutely. You can reach me through tonyrkitchens.com, TONYR as in Robert, KITCHENS.com. All the social links are at the bottom of the website, and the website talks about me and the ways that I can help people.
I love it. Tony, thank you so much for your time and being a part of the Living the Dream Summit. I know people are blessed by what you've shared today. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you again on the Inventor's Journey.
Thank you, Sherelle. And I'm looking forward to your audience members becoming entrepreneurs and being on your show. That's the goal.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you.